Hello everyone, this is John Starrett with Procure SQL. And today I want to show you one of my favorite tools for benchmarking a query. And this tool is Plan Explorer by SentryOne. First, we're quickly going to look at a query and go over three basic things I like to look at when I am benchmarking a query so that when I tune it, I know if my query is improving or not improving. So the first thing we're going to look at here is a query that we have inside of Management Studio. And now there is an index laid out here that will cover this index to help us. So the very first thing I would do inside of Management Studio is I right click inside of the query window and go to Advanced here so that I can make sure that Set Statistics Time and Set Statistics IO is enabled. This way I will get some understanding about how many reads did we have to do to get all of the data for our query, or how long did the query take to run. After we have that done, then we would go over and we'd want to make sure that we've turned on the actual execution plan. So we can see what did SQL Server do to get us our data back from our query. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and highlight our query here and run it. And it's going to run, and the very first thing I'm going to look at is how long did it take for the query to run and how much IO was consumed. So here we can see that we read one table and it took about 3,400 logical reads to get that data. At the same time over here, it took us about a whole second to get that data back. Now, we can go ahead and take a quick look at the execution plan that was built. And this tells us how that data was executed and brought out of SQL Server to us. And one thing I want to highlight here is, unless you click on this big thick line here, you're not going to notice that in this use case, even though we only touch 4,000 rows, we end up scanning the whole table, which is over 228,000 rows here on this query. Okay? So right here inside of Management Studio, we turn on Set Statistics to figure out how many reads and writes happen on our table. And we turned on the actual execution plan so we could see how did SQL Server deliver that data to us. Now, unless we knew to actually look on our thick line here though, we would have never even noticed this huge difference here between number of rows needed and actual number of rows that were read. Okay? So now we're going to take this exact same query over to SentryOne's Plan Explorer, and we're going to look at this query again and see how it's so much easier to see all these three key pieces of information I like to have when I'm benchmarking queries. Alright, so now we're in Plan Explorer by SentryOne, and the first thing I'm going to do is bring in our query here. So this is their exact same query that we have in here that's covered by our index. Now I'm going to go ahead and say get actual execution plan here, and this is going to allow us to go ahead and connect to get our execution plan here. So as this is running, the very first thing I want you to see here is we have this nice history box over here. So what this is going to allow us to do is, as we make changes to the query and rerun it here, we'll have a history log where we can even add comments. So if we want to make any changes, we can easily go back and compare between how much logical reads did this query take, or how long did it run, or how did the execution plan change. So first thing I'm going to do in here is say intro. All right, and just like we ran in Management Studio over here, we're going to see that this took us 3,000 reads here. And again, duration's about the same here. Now, nice thing here, If you remember in Management Studio here, we had to physically look at our line to see the difference between rows returned and how many rows were accessed. You're going to see our exclamation point here inside of SentryOne's Plan Explorer, and it's actually going to tell you here that it had to read a bunch of rows, in our case the whole entire index here, in order to get the rows that were needed here. So this is a great benefit already of Plan Explorers, that you get to see this in the interface right in front of you with the exclamation point. Same thing on the select item here. So here we're going to say the same thing here. Reading the whole index in order to get us the data that we need. Now also, if you want to do a quick scan on table IO here, we'd see the same thing here for logical reads. So now that we can easily see how long it took for our query to run, the exact IO that was used, and the execution plan that was built, now we're going to make a change to our query here. So I'm going to go to our command text here. And in this case, we're going to make a very trivial change that's going to allow us to use our index as a seek. And that is to remove the leading wildcard, because in reality, we want items that actually start with plush in the description, not all items that just have plush anywhere in the description. So by changing that there and removing our wildcard, when we run this now, we're going to see that we actually seeked our index. So I'm going to run this again. And so the very first thing you're going to notice here, we're going to see a big difference here from 776 milliseconds to 25 milliseconds. So in the comments here, I would put remove the leading wild card. And then real quickly here, you can easily bounce back and forth here. So for example, if we remember on our intro here, we had our 3,000 logical reads. If I go back and click on number 2 here and draw it back in, we can see that this is down to 52 logical reads. So you can see it's very quick to be able to bounce back and forth between what's happening between the history of your changes here. In fact, this is actually a great tool that I like to send to my staff and other people that understand how to use this tool, how we can quickly walk through the history of several options that we may have in order to tune a query. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is John Starrett over at Procure SQL, and we love to give you more videos that can help you make your data be fast, secure, and highly available. Thank you.